The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the QATV staff or board of directors. QATV, in compliance with FCC regulations, is prohibited from exercising control over the content of independent, member-produced public access programming.
Turn out the light. Believe. This is Greater Boston Paranormal.
Do you feel it? It went through like a path, like a wave.
Are you still here with us? What are your intentions?
Murder.
Greetings, paranormal peeps. Welcome to Greater Boston Paranormal, the official television show of the Greater Boston Paranormal Associates. I'm Michele Rosner, and I have a couple of our para squad here with me tonight, Pat Connors and Jim Hearn.
Hello. Hi.
Before we get started, we just want to give a mention about some of the stuff that we've been up to lately. We had a pretty awesome visit to Emery Estate in Weymouth, Massachusetts on last Friday.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think we'll have a whole episode dedicated to that particular visit because we really caught some really amazing things that night. And then just a little sneak peek into June's episode. We have two team members you haven't met yet, Amanda Cook and Eva Nagy. They will be taking us through the mystical Ouija board. So make sure you look for that coming up in the near future. But first, since Jim wasn't with us the last time we were on the air, I would like for Jim to just introduce himself for just a minute. And Jim, tell us how long you've been exploring the paranormal and what got you into it.
Well, I started with Dawn back in around 2010. It was short-lived. We went down to Rhode Island, some schoolhouse. It's a house now. It was a schoolhouse back in the day. I did my first all-nighter there, and not a lot happened. And I thought it was interesting. And later on, probably a couple of weeks later, we went out to the Houghton Mansion. And that was another all-nighter. Got some stuff there that really piqued my interest. It was very unique, to say the least. After that, I kind of got away from it for a while. Then around, I'd say 2017, I got back into it on the ship, and loving it ever since.
Well, it's great to have you, Jim. You're an integral part of the team, as is everybody that is part of our group. So we will get started on tonight's episode, and tonight we'll be talking about the ship's hospital on the USS Salem. It's one of the favorite spots during the USS Salem paranormal experience, and it's also one of my favorite places because it was the first place that I had a paranormal experience on the ship. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but despite never seeing combat, the ship's hospital treated many wounded people, both civilians and sailors, during the Ionian earthquake off the coast of Greece, and then also some accidents that happened involving other naval ships. So can't wait to share some of the experiences we've had on the ship. And so let's just dive right in. Let's take a look at some photos of the hospital. The hospital has a little bit different feel than the rest of the ship that is basically open and very well, metallic feeling because it's a metal box. But as you can see by the pictures, it's a little quieter in there, and there are beds, and it looks very much like it would have when it was used to treat wounded civilians and sailors. So what we'll be doing tonight is we'll have the team leading you through a discussion of some happenings on in the hospital, and we'll start off with one video clip of just some of the regular stuff that we encounter during a normal investigation. And this is what this clip is going to show you is some of the devices that pick up EMF or electromagnetic field, and how they react to possible permanent inhabitants on the ship. So let's take a look at that.
A few minutes ago, I asked if you were injured in the explosion in Magazine 3.
Yes. Pegged.
Wow. And look at all three of them going off.
My goodness.
The K2s stopped, Catfall, and...
That's red. It's
Yeah.
And
They
yours
just went
is
off
almost red.
and the lamp went off.
Well, he's sitting on top of it almost.
Jimmy, you have your camera going.
Hell yeah.
Did the sailors take you here after the explosion?
So what did you think? There's lots of pretty lights going off during that clip. When you guys see that kind of stuff, what's your first impression?
If we have a REM pod out there, which is an EMF detector, and you see it going off, you might have paranormal activity. The spirits might be around, and setting that off, just letting you know that, hey, we're here and we're trying to communicate with you.
Yeah, and just so everyone is aware, the EMF can be created by electrical devices. Our phones, we always investigate with our phones in airplane mode. The one thing that will definitely set off all that equipment, and very strongly, are the walkie-talkies that we use just to communicate with one another that are, when we're in different areas of the ship. So we are very aware that we can, that there are possibility that there's other things setting the equipment off. But in general, we can tell if it's just some errant, something randomly setting it off, or we get specific responses to questions, what you were seeing in that video clip.
And as far as the hospital space is concerned, I mean, we know where all the normal EMF energy is at. So when we go in there, when we place our EMF detectors, we know where to put them, where they're not affected, and we also put our phones on airplane mode, which can trigger the EMF detectors too. So when we put them down, we know if we get a hit on it, that it's probably valid, that it might be a spirit around trying to communicate with us.
That's true. And the clip you just saw, basically, you can't see it quite as much with the background there, but we had a couple of K2 meters on different beds, and when that whole thing was going on, both K2 meters lit up all the way on, like a light switch, on and off. And none of us had ever actually seen that before. I mean, you could have a couple of K2 meters side by side, one will work and one won't. It's very strange, but that one there, we had about 5 different devices on there, and every one of them was just reacting to questions. And this went on for about, half an hour, I'd say.
Yeah.
And about the end of the half an hour, I can't recall what we were saying exactly, but whatever it was, Don got the idea that it was something else there, and he said that. He goes, "So you're not who we think you are." And I didn't see it at first till the next morning when I replayed it, but an orb comes right up beside him, around a post, towards me, and towards the bathroom. And that was creepy. That was really good. And then after that, all the devices stopped working. Dead silence.
I think you bring up a good point, Jim, is that when activity occurs, sometimes occurs right after a question. So that's kind of another piece of proof that we're looking for.
Absolutely, yeah. As a matter of fact, I think there's another clip coming up, possibly, where Pat and I went back to the same hospital room. The first shot out of the box, I said, "We're going back there." And maybe, should we play the clip first?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll move through, because Jim mentioned orbs, and so, you can't have a paranormal investigation without a debate about orbs. So we're going to play a little game called Yes, Orb, No. So let's take a look at the first video clip, and you can decide for yourself. Is it an orb or is it not?
Yeah, because he went back to the wardroom, and Don. Yeah, because he went back to the wardroom, and Don.
So there you have it. So there's clearly a sphere of light floating through the air. There isn't any airflow system on the ship that might spit out dust or blow things around. Could it be a spider hanging? Yes, it could be. But that's
I've got to interject though, because I'm the resident skeptic here. It could be. There's a lot of stainless steel on the ship, and if light bounces off stainless steel, it does create a weird effect where it can maybe make an image on the screen of the camera and make you think it might be an actual spiritual orb. So there's that to look at. You've got to look at all the angles when you're trying to prove if it's paranormal or if it's just something mundane.
That's true. The fact that you want to believe so bad that you can almost talk yourself into it. But that last clip, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm very skeptical of orbs. I mean, if any of you follow any of the paranormal pages on Facebook, people are always putting up videos of their Ring cameras outside. Oh, is this an orb? And so orbs are not my my favorite topic, because there's a lot of things that they could be, and sometimes they may actually be a being trying to interact with us. So let's go on to the next one. We're going to play this a couple of times. This is some footage that Jim had captured, and it happens pretty fast. So we're going to play it a couple of times, and then don't worry if you miss it, because we'll have it in slow motion coming up in just a second.
What's that?
99.
You boys move.
Okay, so if you were paying attention, right when the music box started playing, there were some little balls of light that came from back around the far end of the hospital and coming towards where the camera was. So I think we're going to play it again.
Geez, if you don't mind me saying so, I almost thought I saw 3 that time.
Yeah, I agree, Jim. I think there are 3, and
Yeah.
I just think it's funny the slow motion makes it extra creepy.
It does, yeah. I mean, that's the first time I'd seen it in slow motion like that, and I see the 3 of them.
And people might think that they might say they're insects flying around, but this was in the middle of winter where there weren't any insects on board the ship, and we hardly ever see insects anyway aboard the ship. But yeah, that was just more proof that this is some kind of spiritual activity, since the orb actually went around, seemed to go around a column in the hospital and go up towards the camera and then seemingly fly away.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it kind of, it looks as if it reacts to the music box starting to play, and they kind of dart back towards the shower room where Jim and I were both standing, and that, keep that in the back of your mind because that'll be important later on.
You know, another thing I just realized, that when we look at the orbs, every single one of them, they go around a pole. On TV, you see the ghosts or whatever, shows like that, and they go through the walls. They don't seem to go through a wall. They seem to go around stuff and up and over stuff. Just happen to think of it right now, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, we've had a couple of experiences where the activity that we're experiencing actually follows the layout of the hospital. And so this is one of those situations where that seemed to happen. We'll talk about another one in a little bit. But that footage is really pretty amazing. So
I think so.
Great job, Jim, capturing that.
That was good.
It's always, it's luck. So much of it is luck, you know.
It is.
And another thing, when you're looking at the camera, looking through the viewfinder, you don't see dust. Mm-hmm. You know, there's nothing else that shows before or after. So even more compelling that it's, you know, one less thing to think it was going to be.
Right, and that's true of a lot of areas of the ship. You don't see a lot of stuff floating in the background. You know, we go to a lot of the places that we investigate, especially those that have forced air heating systems.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's constantly dust floating around, which would then kind of dispute the evidence of some sort of orb activity. But we don't have that on the ship, and especially in the hospital, because like I said, it's a little more, it's not as metal sounding, I guess, and it's a little bit, the sound is more muted. There's no airflow, and it just definitely has a different sort of energy than some of the other areas of the ship.
Yeah, and another piece of evidence, I guess you could say, there were 2 psychics aboard the ship, Beth and Kim, and we took them to the hospital, and they pointed out the very corner where we think the spirits usually dwell and come from. So that was another piece of evidence for us to say, hey, yes, we have spirits that are in the hospital and that they're in a certain location, and that's exactly where those orbs came from.
Absolutely.
And in the background, you can see some of we still have the EMF type detecting equipment and going off. And what is interesting is the hospital is one of the more active areas of the ship where we almost always get a response. And so it's a great place to take guests. Because we can sit for a very long period of time and have a conversation going on where it's yes no questions basically, that these devices will answer yes. If they don't answer, it's no. Sometimes it'll be different colors of lights that blink for yes and no. And so we've had some very long conversations that make sense. But then there's also days where we'll go down a kind of line of questioning, and all of a sudden it tricks us up and changes its story. And we've come to know this one particular entity that likes to play tricks on us and pretend to be who it's not. So you never know what you're going to get in the hospital. Sometimes it's spirits that we've spoken to before, and sometimes it appears to be somebody new, and then sometimes it's the jokester.
Yeah. And I think that Michele and her husband Lou have some sort of relationship with this entity. Yeah. They seem to get the most communication with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess it was last tour season, that particular entity and I had an interesting relationship. There was a time when, there was one particular evening where I felt like this entity was deliberately trying to make me uncomfortable. And I didn't like that because I'm never uncomfortable on the ship. So, using some of my, the methods that I use as a sensitive to shield myself from any sort of psychic attack, I start doing that every time I go onto the ship. And it was interesting. I started challenging this particular spirit. And so I think over the course of the season, we've kind of come to an understanding. So now this entity is a little bit more playful and sometimes very frustrating because we think we're getting somewhere and it's that guy. So we have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't seem to be aggressively violent or malicious. It just seems to want to play games with us.
Well, it did for a while. It was trying to be trying to act like something scary. Kind of manifesting, and this is just a theory of mine, manifesting as the dark-eyed child, or I'm not using the D word, but something scarier than it actually is. But I think we've like I said, had come to an understanding with this particular entity. All right, so we are going to move on to a less debatable piece of evidence, and that is activity of cat toys. So we like to use these little balls that are meant for cats to play with, and when you turn it on, the lights, they all light up and shine and it stops. Well, let's wait for it to stop. It's probably not going to stop. So if it moves, the ball will light up again. And so we will place these around areas where we're investigating as just just to see if we get any activity of these balls lighting up. The spirits seem to be attracted to them and like the pretty lights.
And we do check the floor. We jump up and down just to make sure that the cat ball doesn't move. We make sure that there aren't any breezes coming in that are going to blow the cat ball and make it go off. So we just check for all that so that when it does go off, hopefully we get some of that good paranormal activity.
And the funny thing about that, the cat balls is 9 times out of 10, it doesn't move. It just lights up on its own, and occasionally will light up when asked to be lit up, which happened in the dentist office about a year and a half ago. That was a unique situation, absolutely.
Yeah, we don't often see them move, but we do have a couple of clips to show you of videos that were taken by some of the guests on the ship where the cat balls actually move. So let's look at the first clip. All right, so what do you make of that? This is one of the rare occasions where we do see the cat ball actually move, and it's pretty amazing that we were able, the guest was able to catch it on camera. So let's just take a look one more time at that video. All right, pretty cool. And as you can see, there's nothing up there moving it. It just seems to move on its own. And I'm not sure, but I think that this one and the next video we have that was taken from happened on the same rack.
I think so. I think it's maybe the first rack as you walk into the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. That same rack, and I think it's actually maybe that was on the bottom rack, and the next one is on the top rack.
Yeah, it's obvious that nothing moved that bed at all.
Right.
It was just sitting by itself.
Yeah, it's always great when our guests capture some evidence and they share it with us. A lot of times they will say that they're going to share it, and we never actually see it. But these are two that we actually did get. And interestingly enough, 3 weeks ago, when we had our first public investigation of the season, we did have a cat ball move, but sadly we didn't catch it on camera. But there was a bunch of us in the hospital at that time, and it did happen again. So let's look at the second clip of the cat ball.
That's an amazing video.
It is. It lights up first for half a second, then off it goes.
It doesn't even seem to creep. It just seems like somebody had a finger on it and just pushed the thing. I imagine if it's on a slope or something and it's teetering, it can fall. I mean, that's a possibility. But just looking at that, it looks like somebody had just pushed it with their finger.
And what I think is interesting about that particular video is that you can also see they have a Paralight and another device on the bottom racks, and those don't appear to respond. which I think is interesting that all of that energy was being used to push that cat ball off of the rack. So let's just take a look at it one more time. Freaking cool.
That's one of my favorite cat ball videos.
It is a good one.
I mean, I think people go their entire, paranormal careers and not see evidence like that. And we've got two.
So they haven't come to the Salem.
Well, I know. That's why we like to brag that the Salem is probably one of the most haunted places in New England.
It's a paranormal spoiler.
It is.
If you go there, then you'll try to rate other places based on the USS Salem, and it's a pretty active place.
Because that's what we do. We go somewhere else and we don't get the exact same reaction. It's like, but it's not like home, Even in a bad night, shall we say, the Salem always comes through. So a lot of times that takes like 9 or 10 o'clock at night to do it, but usually it does something.
It hasn't been typical though. Like three weeks ago, when we had our first group on of the year, we started in the hospital, and from the very beginning,
it's off the charts.
The spirits were out in force. And I came back from that night just being so excited that she did not disappoint our guests. Let me tell you that, because when we go to other locations, I don't think it's the evidence is as in your face as the stuff we experience on the Salem, and sometimes. It takes me overnight to process some of the stuff at other locations that we've seen, but the stuff on the ship is really, really, really incredible.
Absolutely, it's so good.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to our next topic, and so I'm just gonna start this with. The caveat that we're going to be talking about some piece of equipment that those of us that are skeptics will stop and think about for a minute. But just before we go on, though, I think that the credibility of this technology, I think we felt a lot better about after our trip to Emory Estate last Friday, and that is the use of an SLS camera. So we'll just take a look at the camera. And basically what this camera is, and I'm pretty sure we can have an entire episode dedicated to some of the footage that we've got on this thing, but it's an IR projector, infrared, and it makes use of basically the device that Microsoft used for their Connect device that will pick up, detect a human form, and then it'll draw a stick figure as to where this form figure is, and one of the reasons that I'm kind of skeptical about it is because it would seem to me if you pixelate something enough, you could connect the dots in any way that you wanted. I started to believe a little bit more in the technology when I've used this device in the daylight. because it in the dark it's pretty easy, you know, when you take pictures with your phone in the dark, it's very granular, and so I'm like, well, we can pixelate stuff, but when I've used it in the daylight, it's a little bit, I think it to me is a little bit more believable. But before we look at some of that evidence, I just want to talk a little bit about the experience that I had the first time that I visited the Salem, and this happened in the ship's hospital. So let's take a look at the graphic that we have. It's basically a diagram showing the hospital, and I believe both Jim and Pat were there that night when this happened.
I was.
Me too.
But if you take a look at the diagram, the racks are set up as kind of a U shape, and at that time I was standing right inside the doorway of the shower room, and what I experienced was I felt like there was something trying to get past me. And the reason I felt like that is because I had my bag at my side, and I felt 2 times something try to push my bag as if to get my attention. And when I didn't move, I had a necklace on, and the charm on my necklace just went across my neck. And at that point then I moved, and then in sequence, the way the racks are set up, we had EMF detectors at various points. They seem to go off in sequence around and out the door. So I could, you know, it was pretty amazing to me, because that was the first time that I was on the ship.
My jaw dropped.
Yeah. And every K2 went to red. That was just, and it lasted about 10 seconds for the whole thing to happen.
Yeah.
And it was gone.
Yeah.
Whoever it was.
Well, I was standing there in complete dark, and you know, one of the things that I do is I like to stand back from others, because I pick up energy from other people, and so I was standing in the shower room. It was pitch black. I had no reason to be afraid of anything, but I could feel kind of the anxiety kind of building and building until my purse finally moved and my necklace moved, and then I moved, and then there it went right out the door. So that was just kind of a fun experience. But let's take some of the evidence and put it together that we've seen so far. And so there's before we get to this one, so there was my experience of you know, being touched in the shower room and told to get out of the way. And then we had the footage of the orbs coming back towards the shower room. So, you know, there's something that goes on in that room.
And if I just interject quick, when I was talking before about the orbs coming out and going around things, it's a spirit. It can go anywhere, but it basically had to tell you to get out of its way.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating in itself, I think. You
Right.
know?
So you know, that's kind of it's kind of evidence of an intelligent haunting, or maybe something that doesn't realize that it can go wherever it wants. Or maybe it could have just been it was trying to get our attention.
Oh, definitely. We've had psychics come on and say that they've seen a man with a burning face, and we think that the person or persons, spirits that are in that room in the hospital probably came from the John R. Pierce, when they were brought over and they were, you know, caught in the explosion. So yeah, it seems like we've had some conversations and with multiple equipment going off during that conversation, talking about, especially Lou, talking about the Navy and stuff that would happen in a hospital. It just seems like it connected with that type of stuff. So, yeah.
Very cool. So let's take a look at, and we were just talking about the SLS camera, and so just a little lead into the last clip that we have to share with you. This was our first public investigation of the year, and we started off in the hospital, and we had a very, very long interaction with an entity that seemed to be attached to one of our guests, and really being kind of playful with this particular guest. And so probably for a half an hour, we were, talking to the spirit using the devices that we had, and our guests were having a good time. And, I was kind of in my typical spot back by the shower room, and Jim was right next to me. He had the camera going. And I could hear some shuffling back behind me in the shower room. And so that led to turning on the SLS camera and taking a look to see, if there was something going on. So myself and one of our other team members, we were watching this unfold. So let's take a look at that clip.
If you're still here, touch the round pod.
Okay, you can stop.
Somebody in here?
We're still waiting for your name.
You can talk to Suzanne's device and tell us
Who-
who you are.
Wait, who? So, yeah, there is somebody in here.
Yeah, are you recording that, honey?
Yes.
Suzanne, check that out. She's got something little in there. Oh,
Wait,
there
there
you
is.
go. There you go.
Wait.
There you go.
Oh my God. I saw a hand come out of here before.
Now she's in the bathroom.
We know you can touch the round pod.
Are you,
Can you touch the catwalk?
are you the same entity that's talking to Ed up in the bunk there? Oh, I'm hearing noises in here. That's why I said that. Are you hiding in the corner? Can you wave to me? If you can, I'm waving too.
It did.
Where'd you go? Oh, come on.
Yeah, so that was one of the first videos on the ship that we got with our new SLS camera.
That's the first time I saw that clip. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, you were there with me, but you didn't see the clip. What is particularly amazing is we asked the figure to wave, and it actually looked like as if it did.
Yeah, that's one of the pieces of evidence that you want. If you ask it to do something, lift its leg or lift its hand or touch something, and it does it. Yeah, that's fantastic evidence.
Yeah. I think it's pretty cool, and what I like about the camera is, in the top right corner, you can see the IR image of what you're looking at. So, you know, if there was actually a person standing there, you would be able to see that was, oh, that's Pat standing over there. And in this case, there wasn't anybody standing there, and this figure appeared.
He seemed to be quite animated too, I thought.
Yeah.
It was quite animated.
Yeah, it was. That was really cool. I have to say that was. So anyway, I have a thing with with that particular area of the ship because things happen a lot, and who knows? Maybe that's the same spirit that I encountered the very first time I was on the ship.
Makes you wonder, absolutely, if that's his spot or her spot. Probably his.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to be wrapping up this episode, and I don't know. We've got some really exciting stuff coming up.
Oh, we've got all kinds of stuff coming up.
Oh, big stuff.
I know.
We're leaving the state. I mean, really leaving the state.
Yeah. We're not running away. We're coming back. But,
but you know, just as a reminder to everyone, there are a few public investigations on the Salem. If you go to the website, it's USS-Salem.org.
yep.
And you can, if you check out the USS Salem Paranormal Experience. That's where you can go to find out what dates they're being held and buy tickets. And just if you're interested in going, buy your tickets because these events do sell out very quickly. We also have a Paracon coming up in this month on the Salem. There will be 2 days worth of speakers and vendors on the ship, and the Paracon starts off with an investigation on Friday night, which I believe right now is sold out. But keep checking back just in case some extra tickets become available. And then, as I mentioned earlier, our June episode will be featuring some members of the team that you haven't met yet. They'll be talking about Ouija board. And then we have a big month in June. Will be the first Friday in June. We will be investigating the Shanley Hotel that is I believe in Westchester County, New York, just north of New York City. So we'll be spending the evening there. So look out for episodes relating to that. And then the big trip is middle to late June. We will be heading out west to investigate the Villisca axe murder house and also the Sally house. So big road trip.
Two big locations.
Yeah. So
in 3 days. Or two,
that's right.
Friday, Saturday, and it's going to be a lot.
Yeah, we're going to be tired.
Yep, pretty much.
But stay tuned for more to come from the Greater Boston Paranormal Associates. So thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you again soon.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks for watching.